very well. Hello there, mamas. Welcome back. As usual, a woman has to adjust her clothes. Anyway, welcome back. My name is Mama Modoni. I'm a mom of two. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I'm a certified lactation counselor, as well as a certified child nutrition practitioner and a new parent educator. That means I can support you, your family, or your friends and their family with breastfeeding, with child nutrition. If your baby is not adding enough weight because of breastfeeding issues or feeding issues, if you're having issues with sleep, if you're just having issues adjusting to new motherhood, I'm your girl. Today I'm talking about something that I'm very passionate about, the pelvic floor. And the reason I'm so passionate about it is because I found myself in a situation where I was having pelvic floor dysfunction, yet, one, I didn't know anything about it, nothing. Like, never even thought about it, never even heard of it, never. Like, I just woke up and I realized I was in a pit and I had nobody to talk to. Also, I feel like a lot of us I don't know that to say our age, but a lot of women below the age of 45 or below the age of 40 really have no idea about how important our pelvic floor is. Let me even say that below the age of 40 or even below the age of 30. Like, there's so many things we take for granted and we think that there are issues that are only experienced by older women. But what we don't realize is these older women who are now 50 or 60 or 70 generally started having issues in their 30s or in their 20s, but they didn't know who to talk to, or maybe in their time, nobody was talking about them. So that's why I'm really, really passionate about the pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor is it's like a muscle. Before I go there, let me say this is again my opinion. I am not a professional. I am not your doctor. I am not a pelvic floor. I'm not a physiotherapist. This is my opinion, what has worked for me and me just trying to educate you. But do your own research. Talk to your doctor, although also many doctors will just tell you to go for surgery. But yeah, anyway, we'll talk more about that. So the pelvic floor is a muscle that is like a hammock, like that. That do I say sleeps or sits between like your pelvic area here or your pubic bone here, up all the way into your anal area. So it's a hammock. It holds up your uterus, your rectum, and your bladder. Holds it up. Right? Now, when we get pregnant, for most of us, issues start with pregnancy. There's a lot of pressure and a lot of weight put on this pelvic floor. So with time, especially during pregnancy, it creates a weakness that leads to pelvic floor dysfunction. A lot of us, or a lot of women, have pelvic floor dysfunction. It's just that we don't know it, or we only realize it much later, or we sit with other women and we say, hey, nataka kukojoa. Basically, I really feel like taking a pee. And me, when I want to take a pee, I have to really run fast. And everybody on the table tells you, yeah, me too, ata mimi, ata mimi. And then you sit there and tell yourselves, it's normal. It's not. It's common. It's very common, but it's not normal to always have to run to the toilet every time you feel like peeing. I know older women or even women in their 40s who, whether you know you're old when you think women in your 40s are not old. Anyway, women who carry panties with them in their bags, with their handbags, because they need to have something just in case they have an accident, right? Immediately I gave back to Modoni, one of my neighbor women. Older lady told me, oh, by the way, you need to take care of yourself. Don't work too hard. Otherwise, you'll be walking around and you start having vaginal fats. She didn't have an explanation for what that is, but now later I realized that is also pelvic floor dysfunction that leads to the vaginal fats when you're walking, not during sex. That's a whole different thing. When you're just walking and you have vaginal fats, and that's a sign of pelvic floor dysfunction. As usual, I have a book. When I have serious topics, books are important for me so that I don't forget things. So other symptoms of pelvic floor dysfunction, the most common one is urinary incontinence or urge incontinence. This means that you cough, and there's a lot of videos, especially on Instagram, making fun of this. Like you cough, like you've understood me. Basically, like when you sneeze, you brace yourself. So you hold in your vaginal muscles, you hold in your pelvic floor muscles, and then you sneeze so that you don't leak, right? That's the most common one. And that happens to women in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 70s. Mostly women. Again, common, but not normal. Having vaginal fats, especially when you're walking around, During sex is different because air could be pushed in by the motion of sex and the air still needs to come out. But if air is just being pushed in and you're just walking around, that's a sign of pelvic floor dysfunction. Sometimes having constipation can be a sign of pelvic floor dysfunction. And this is because maybe things are not sitting the way they're supposed to. So you're trying to push out, you're not really being able to push out. Or sometimes you're trying to take a poop, but you have to really adjust yourself on the seat so that you're able to poop. Or for some people, they actually have to put their finger up their vagina to press into the rectum for the poop to actually come out, or having to like manipulate things for it to work, like for the poop to actually work and come out. That's a sign. Lower back pain. That's actually my biggest symptom for me. And the pain comes from your anal area. Like it's back pain. So I used to think it was back pain. So it's down here, like, I don't know if I can show you. So the back is here, but I'd have pain like here, all the way up into like my anal area. And it's really painful. So I used to call it backache, but it's actually more of pelvic pain. Then also pelvic pain. So there's a pain that comes at the back, and then sometimes I'd have pain, or you have pain that is coming from like the pubic bone down into your vaginal area all the way up. That from started when I was pregnant and never really went away. So it's a whole pelvic area that would hurt. And sometimes it's really painful and really hard to walk. Some people have painful sex. And sometimes this one I had, especially after Mudhoni. I don't remember if I had it after PC, but sometimes you feel pressure. Some people have it in the back area. Personally, I'd have it like here in the pubic area, pelvic area, pubic bone area here. So you feel pressure. And some people say they have pressure when they're running. They have pressure when they're trying to exercise. Please, if you have that, just stop. Stop your heavy exercises. Stop the running. Stop the sit-ups, all those things. And we'll talk about things that make it worse. So issues that sometimes lead to having pelvic floor issues. The biggest one is pregnancy. Another one is lifting heavy things. Peeing too much. Constipation can also be a factor. Like you're already having constipation issues because of diet or other things. Then because of the urge of always pushing, like you're always bearing down, you're always trying to remove your poop, then it weakens the pelvic floor and leads to pelvic floor dysfunction. Age, 1 in 3 women by the age of 50 actually have urinal, like your pee leaks. 1 in 3. Or they have incontinence. That's a high number. It's a very high number. And I usually feel like it's very important for us who are much younger to do something about our pelvic floor before we get there and 1 in 3 of us starts leaking urine, and it only gets worse with age because it's a muscle, right? And muscles weaken. The same way your face ages and your muscles age and your muscles here age, then even the pelvic floor is a muscle that ages. Constipation, peeing too much, power peeing. Like you go to the toilet, instead of waiting for your muscles to do what they're supposed to do, right? Like you're supposed to sit in a toilet and then you release. Like you relax and then your muscles, it just happens. Your muscles release and they open. But sometimes, especially when we are pressed or in a hurry, you sit and you start pushing. You're really trying to remove the pee. That also works against your pelvic floor, and it's a very bad thing if already you have a weak pelvic floor. And if you don't have weak PC muscles, still don't do it. Heavy lifting, and then also some exercises make things worse. So things like jumping, things like running, sit-ups. Sit-ups are really bad for your pelvic floor. And also sometimes another symptoms is actually like you have a tummy, like a big tummy, or like you have a tummy and then it wrinkles here, especially after birth, and it really doesn't seem to go away no matter what you do. So most times you have diastasis recti, which over here now your muscles separate, and because they're separated, then it just doesn't go away. That one can be diagnosed by your pelvic floor therapist or your doctor, and they can help you with that. But sit-ups are really big enemy. Sit-ups, mountain climbers, like anything that pushes down onto your tummy area is really a bad thing for your pelvic floor muscles, especially if you're trying to heal them. So personally, what have I done about my pelvic floor muscles? So my pelvic floor muscles were really, really badly off. It led to me having a uterine prolapse, basically meaning that my uterus was not where it was supposed to be. So if it was supposed to be here, it had fallen to here. And this thing, they usually grade. So by the time I was going to my gyna, he didn't even think it was my gyna is Dr. Wanyonyi at Aga Khan. He didn't even think it was a big deal. It was like, that is not a big deal. We won't operate. We can only operate after we finish giving birth. Go and look for a physiotherapist. So I went looking for a physiotherapist. I went and saw a physiotherapist at one of these big hospitals. I didn't feel satisfied. I went to another WhatsApp group I have of some professional women. I asked, and I was sent to Kiloni, who's now my pelvic floor physiotherapist. She's been working with me over the last few years. So when I went, the uterus was actually quite low. And this thing comes with, like, it gives you self-esteem issues. You start feeling like you're old, like your body is just breaking apart. And it is like, with there, I really used to cry. Anyway, the lot of exercise that she has given me, I've been able to take it up. In fact, the last ultrasound I had with my doctor, I even forget what he said, -2 or something. Like the station it's at, it's above where now it starts being called a prolapse. So it has slowly been going up over time. And basically things that I've been doing are exercises that she's been giving me, breathing. I'm basically not even supposed to be sitting the way I'm seated now. There's a way you're supposed to sit up and just make sure everything is okay. The way you do your Kegels, I talk about Kegels a lot on my Instagram page. Most of us, when you're doing your Kegels, you just press your vagina and you think you've done a Kegel. That's not it. You do a Kegel by lifting. You lift your pelvic floor muscles up, and you're supposed to lift up. One way she really taught me how to do was to, like, imagine that you've thrown a ball, like a ball has been thrown on your tummy. And if somebody throws a ball at you, what you do is brace, right? And when you brace, when you feel what is being lifted up, those are actually your pelvic floor muscles working. And that's how I was able to isolate what I'm supposed to be lifting. Now I don't need to do that. I can actually just do a Kegel even now. So you're supposed to breathe in, release your PC muscles and release your vaginal muscles and open up like a flower. And then after that, when you're breathing out, you lift like a lift, or like you're zipping up. So you lift from your vagina up, all the way into your pelvic floor muscles, and you lift them up. And then you hold and you release when you're breathing in, sorry. I don't know if I have made sense. I hope I have. But basically what I'm saying is holding in your vaginal muscles is not enough. That's just essence your vaginal muscles. Your vaginal muscles will really not help you when you're 60 and when you're 70. What you're trying to do is to strengthen your pelvic floor muscles so that they go up. So I've been doing that. Breathing exercises. There are exercises that she gives me for doing with my tummy, and even how to walk, how to sit, how to control your breathing. It's honestly a lot of work, but I've seen such great improvements within myself. Now, the other thing I discovered the other day is something called Pelvic Floor Neo Control Machine. It's available in Kenya. There's only one in Kenya. I think there's even only one in Africa or two in Africa. So the place that has it is in Muthaiga Square. Muthaiga Square is that Thika Road? Yeah, I believe it's Thika Road, just around Muthaiga Esso Plaza. So if you're coming from town from Pangani, you'd have to go into Thika Road and then turn at around NYS, come back, Muthaiga Square. Anyway, Google it, you'll find it. So this is a seat that helps you do Kegels. It does about 18,000 Kegels per 20-minute session. So you'd go to them already. Most times you go there with your diagnosis ready, and you sit on the chair, and based on the diagnosis that you have, then they'll be able to control the chair. If you have your PC muscles are too tight, then the exercise will be different. If your PC muscles are too weak, then the exercise would also be different. So for me, because I'm still trying to tighten my muscles, they don't put for me a very high setting. I think I'm still at around 50%. I sit down, I'll insert a photo here. I sit down on the thing, I open my legs up, but then nothing goes in. I'm fully dressed, right? I'm just opening up. They said because they didn't want to say fat, but because I'm bigger, so I open my legs so that my pelvic region is more exposed. But they said they do that for everybody. Then if you're bigger, you adjust. Anyway, you'll find out. So you sit there for 20 minutes fully dressed, nothing is being touched, nothing is being done for anything. And the thing does its job. So the first time it just does, it's not painful. And then it takes a break after 10 minutes. The second session, for me, I actually feel, so they said if your pelvic muscles if you've been exercising them and you know what they are, you know what they feel like, you actually feel the contraction. So for me, when it comes back the second time, I actually feel my PC muscles being contracted. So I've been doing that for I think I've done about 4 sessions now. And I feel like I'm stronger. In fact, I was just telling someone today, I really hope it's not all in my mind, because it actually feels like I am stronger. But this is video 1. After about maybe 2 months, I'll come back and tell you guys how I actually feel after all the sessions. I'm going for about 10 to 15 sessions. So I'll come back and update you guys. But I also wanted to tell you guys, because there are a few people who come to me on my DM asking me what to do about having a prolapse and all these things. And especially when you're young, you really don't. Yeah, I still consider myself young, imagine. Anyway, you really don't know who to talk to. So just wanted to tell you that you're not alone. There are so many of us out there. It's just that people feel some sort of shame. And for very many years, actually, I felt a bit of shame with this. Even in fact, when I was coming to do this video, it's not in my notes anywhere. I wasn't going to come and tell you guys that I I think it's had a pelvic floor, like a uterine prolapse. Because there's a shame. But don't feel it. Or rather, it's okay to feel it, acknowledge it, but just know that you're not alone. Right? So let me continue with the treatment. That is Mudhoni calling me. Please give me a minute, Mudhoni. So let me continue the treatment this time. I'm still going to continue talking to my pelvic floor physiotherapist. And it's a lifelong thing. Like just like with PCOS, I've done a video for PCOS, or I'll share it. It's a lifelong thing where you always have to just keep exercising and not carry heavy things. Like I barely carry my children. In fact, sometimes I carry my kids and my husband is like, so kujumiza ndio, So it's constantly remembering to do better and to do better for yourself, for you right now, for your kids right now, but also because one day I'm going to be a 70-year-old woman and I don't want to be wearing diapers because I didn't take care of myself when I was young. And because I needed to go and lift weights like up like this because other people were doing it. I feel bad actually sometimes when I see people on Instagram, they've exercised, people have just given birth, they're all lifting weights, they're doing sit-ups, they're doing, sometimes I feel bad, and I feel bad for myself, not about them. I feel bad for myself because I feel sometimes like my body has betrayed me, but I've given birth to 2 babies. I'm alive. I can walk. As in, there's so many other blessings that are there. So I always try and give myself courage that it's okay. It's okay. And I'm gaining strength and I'm doing what is best for my body. And yeah, it will get better and I'll get stronger. It doesn't mean that I'll never be able to lift weights. I am working to get my body strength back. So if that's where you are, just work at it. It will still get better, especially if you work with professionals. The place that I talked about is called Pelvic Neo Control Center. It's at Muthaiga Square. I'll link their contact details here below and also their Instagram page. So remember, you're doing great, Mama. See you next time.